Hello and welcome to Somewhere in Waldo County. Well, today I'm up at Belfast Area High School for what I understand is an inaugural event that's happening around the holidays, and since it's happening a little bit before Thanksgiving, I was hoping that it would be on TV on Thanksgiving Day, and it's the 2014 Season of Gratitude Potluck Supper put on by the Greater Belfast Area Ministerium. We had a chance to record a little bit of the opening remarks by Duncan Newcomer, which might explain what this event is all about.
I am glad to welcome you here. My name is Duncan Newcomer. I'm a part of GBAM, and GBAM is sponsoring this event. GBAM stands for Greater Bay Area Ministerium, and they are the sponsors of the first 2004 Season of Gratitude Potluck Supper. I want to thank Nancy Schroeder for her harp music that gathered us in today. We were very happy that she was willing and able to do this with us. So welcome to the Season of Gratitude potluck meal. I want to tell you a little bit about how this event came to be. Most of us think about Thanksgiving in terms of pilgrims and Indians. But 151 years after 1620, after Cape Cod and the Pilgrim and the Indians, in 1771, there was no Thanksgiving nationally among the colonists. But 151 years ago, this year, there was a national Thanksgiving, thanks to President Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, in October of 1863, issued a proclamation asking the nation to come together as a nation, even in the midst of civil war, to give thanks for the good things that were still happening in people's lives and in the national life. He also asked people to be penitent, sorry, for the things that we were doing that were, he called, our perversities. So we're not going to ask you to share any of your perversities, but it is a good point that a good president asks us to be sorry for those things we do that defeat what he would have called the divine will. 151 years ago this year, Abraham Lincoln also issued the Emancipation Proclamation to rid this country of the scourge of slavery. 151 years ago this year, Abraham Lincoln also delivered the Gettysburg Address. And so he asked that equality and sacrifice be the ways of rebirth for this country. 151 years ago this year, Abraham Lincoln did a number of wonderful things for this country. And so we decided to ask the wider community to join us for a common meal as a way of perhaps some community building and then reaching out to churches and institutions and gatherings of people that we don't always share meals with. So that's our purpose for today. I want to share with you a line from Lincoln's Thanksgiving Day proclamation because this is his invitation to us today. It's important that what he says is he does not ask the nation to gather in churches. He does not ask the nation to gather in houses of worship. He does not ask the country to gather religiously. He asks the country to gather as a community. He says, I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and he would have also meant the South, and also those who are at sea, and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and to observe this day for praise and thanksgiving to what he called our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens. That was what he asked us to do. I want to share with you before we eat some words of Abraham Lincoln that would substitute for a blessing at a meal or a prayer in a church. These are words that Abraham Lincoln said. So we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. We cannot separate. There is no line, straight or crooked, upon which to divide. We cannot escape history. No personal significance nor insignificance can spare the one or the other of us. The mystic chords of memory will yet swell the chorus of union to every living heart and hearthstone, and again touch the better angels of our nature. Let us gather now and enjoy each other's company.
All right, so I'm speaking with Duncan Newcomer after you made your introductory remarks. And you know, you went over things in a way that I understood, but I thought needed a little more clarity. And that's the whole idea that, you know, burst my bubble, that first Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims.
Right.
That did happen, right?
That did happen. It happened in 1620.
But
It happened on Cape Cod.
for the next, you know, let's say the next 20 years after that.
There's very little historical record of people continuing to do that. And certainly outside of Massachusetts, they weren't doing that.
So when Abraham Lincoln decided to do this, was it like some idea he had out of the blue, or were there a lot of clergymen?
No, there was a woman named Sarah Hale, an editor of a magazine, who had been trying to get some president to initiate a national Thanksgiving because she wanted the country to hold together. And she had been asking presidents to do this for a long time. He saw that this would be a very good thing for the country. So he acceded to Sarah Hale's desire.
So back in those days, it was before Twitter and Facebook, where it took a little while for words to get out. When did he declare this? Like, was it in, did he give us enough time to figure out that everyone would be eating, was everyone eating turkey then?
I don't know about the meal. I know there's a culinary historian in North Carolina that knows.
Okay.
But he issued the proclamation in October. And he said, I think it was the last Thursday in November. So people had newspapers, they knew.
Yeah. And did it get embraced immediately? Did the North and South both do it? I mean, I would think that if I were a Southerner, I would be defying anything that this Lincoln guy was trying to promote.
You're right. It did not take in the South for a long time. Yeah.
So when did it become the holiday that it is today?
Probably around the time of Franklin Roosevelt.
That's a long time later.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
He had
another war.
he had another war, and he also changed the date. And Norman Rockwell and his art really
Oh,
helped.
right. The Saturday Evening Post of the turkey. You mean before that, not everyone was eating turkey?
I don't know for sure, but that really solidified it for the kind of thing that we think of as Thanksgiving today.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit about Thanksgiving today, because for many of us, I got to admit that I think about, like, it's a time when all the family gets together and we have like this big meal.
Right.
And there's usually, well, in my family, we have the tradition of singing the doxology or something like that. But for many of us, like so many holidays, the real purpose of the holidays sort of almost gets lost a little along the way. You know, it's like, oh, time for a great meal and watch a football game.
Well, you're right. And I think part of what's so valuable about Lincoln was that he saw that there was a deeper need for people to be, use the word I used in my introduction again, penitent, to be sorry for the ways in which the national life were leading people to division rather than union and harmony.
Right. I heard you say that what was it, our perversities, which got a bit of a chuckle because, you know, we're not all perverts, right?
Yeah. Actually, the words were being
Oh, look, a cameo appearance by Rebecca.
This is Rebecca Jessup.
I'm sorry, I had no idea that.
No, we're actually doing a TV interview right now.
Oh, great. Well,
The words of that proclamation, most of them were written by William Seward, his Secretary of State. Perversity wasn't a word that Lincoln would have used often, but he really cared that people be contrite.
That they say, oh, you know, I have sinned, but I will.
That's the core of his humility. His humility was to be sorry for those ways in which we don't please the Almighty.
So, the Belfast, what is it? The GBAM,
The
Greater Belfast
Greater
Area.
Bay Area Ministerium.
The reason that you've taken that means that this, as much as Christmas,
Right.
is thought of as a spiritual, or not necessarily Christian, but well,
Exactly.
maybe Christian. I don't know.
Well, part of our hope is to move it outside of just Christianity and the American story
Yeah.
into a wider story of community building with people that are don't participate in the Cape Cod story and still want to be a part of America.
Well, you know, I got to say that so much has changed from when I was a little kid learning about Thanksgiving, and it was like the one time when, you know, the Indians helped us out, and after that we basically helped the Indians out. But no, you know, it was this long, horrible history of us, you know, after the Indians helped us exterminating them,
Well, that's
which
why-
sort of has darkened my image of the tradition of Thanksgiving a little.
It is a dark story, and it's a true story. And to have Thanksgiving needs to, in some of our minds, get away from that story.
And that's why I understand that this is not called a Thanksgiving potluck, but besides the fact that it's not actually happening on Thanksgiving Day, it's happening on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. But tell me a little bit about the thinking of this particular event.
Seasons of gratitude was the word that is used to displace the word Thanksgiving. And it came out of a new birth of freedom in the city of Detroit last year. The Interfaith Council in Detroit said we need to find another way to celebrate Thanksgiving, partly because Detroit has the largest Arab population of any one city in this country. A great number of people from Baghdad moved to Detroit. So they said, how are we going to make this a community? So they instituted what they called the Season of Gratitude.
Really? Now that's that whole thing about Detroit. I mean, I'm thinking about how all these empty, you know,
I know.
abandoned buildings. Oh, I'm from Baghdad. I'd feel really comfortable in a place that looks
But
like
Detroit is really turning around.
I know. I've heard all about urban gardens and things
Yeah.
in Detroit.
And so this is a part of the rebirth of freedom in Detroit.
Uh-huh.
So it's a new place from which the story of America can come.
So here we are up at Belfast Area High School.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people, not the entire town, but you know, it's
Yeah.
it's a start, right?
It is, right.
And what is the idea? Because from what I understand, people are doing more than just eating. They're going there's like facilitators or something. Tell me what's going on here.
There are people at the table that will ask people to share stories of their own family traditions of Thanksgiving, what they're thankful for these days, and do they believe that Lincoln's vision of Thanksgiving, of reconciliation and gratitude, makes sense in a hard time like now?
You know, I think that it's always good to remember the good things, but it sounds like Lincoln didn't want us to just think about good things, but be aware of our shortcomings. And so many of the, like your description of, you know, having it come from Detroit. I mean, Detroit is, although it's going through rebirth, there's a lot of, you know, not so great stories. Everything from bankruptcy to, you know, just abandoned, horrible houses there.
Like how, a year ago when they started this, how were they going to be grateful?
Right.
You know, so they needed some wisdom, and Lincoln's the source of that wisdom.
So can I learn a little bit more about the Greater Bay Area Ministerium? Who is in it? Is it all Christians, or is it all like...
Not all Christians. They're women and men, religious and spiritual leaders.
Okay.
We have some Quaker women that are a part of it. And most of the other members that I know are ministers of churches now.
Is it like all the churches, or is it just a select few?
it's
Like, does it
not.
appeal to all of the churches in the
No,
area?
it doesn't. And that's what we're trying to to change. I've spent a lot of time in the last 10 days trying to establish contact with some of the churches that don't belong to the GBAM group. The so-called mainline churches do, the other churches don't, and we thought it would be important and valuable, and we will hope to do this every year, to begin to establish community connections with some of the other churches.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if if people feel like they're isolated or they can't interact with others, I always thought that creates, the potential of misunderstanding.
Absolutely, and we have more values in common than separate us. We're not as divided as a country as we think we are from the media, and so we want to establish some real personal ways in which that community can be experienced.
So what do you hope happens at today's event?
People have a good time. People want to come back and do this again next year, and people find that there's another way to think about Thanksgiving.
All right. So I've been speaking with Duncan Newcomer, and we've been learning about the Thanksgiving and more. So we'll learn a little bit more from some of the other members of the Greater Belfast Area Ministerium. All right. Well, I'm now talking with Leslie Humans, who's with the Quaker meeting in Belfast. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Belfast Area Friends Meeting is the Quaker meeting that's been here in the Belfast area for close to 30 years now.
I wasn't really aware because I hadn't seen, the Quaker or the Friends. What do you call yourselves, Friends or Quakers?
You can call us either one.
Okay.
Both are more than acceptable. And there's a great historical story behind our being dubbed Quakers. Originally, George Fox, one of the founders, called the early followers Friends of Light. But apparently because of their being mocked as quaking in the process of their worship.
You mean they'd be fervently shaking
Yes.
with passion about what they were talking about?
Yes, as they were moved by spirit, they had been mocked and called Quakers, and George Fox in 1652 said, "Fine, call us Quakers." We embrace that. So we embrace Friends or Quakers, whatever you'd like to call us.
All right. But where is the Quaker church these days?
Well, the Quaker Friends Meeting, Belfast Area Friends
It's not
Meeting.
a church, right? I'm getting this wrong. Is it called?
It's called meeting. We
Okay.
are what's called an unprogrammed meeting, and we actually have what's considered silent worship. But there are Friends churches, but that's a very long story for another day, and the
All right,
complexities of any faith group,
Sure.
that's a whole show there.
Yeah.
But Belfast Area Friends Meeting currently is renting space or sharing space with the First Baptist Church. We have a dedicated entrance through the Peace Garden, which is the garden that leads to the L of the First Baptist Church at 95 High Street.
I think that's really cool that, different, it's almost like you're different religions, right? But you share the same house of the Lord, I guess, right?
Well, we are a different faith group, but one of the reasons we're even gathering here today is because we really believe that what we share, what's in common, is far greater than the differences between different faith groups. So for instance, today at the Season for Gratitude supper, potluck supper, we are trying to not think about our differences, but think about those things that join us together.
Well, that's really wonderful, and I must say that, Leslie, it was you who got in touch with me to come and say that this would be a good thing to cover, and it's really nice to see all the people here behind us participating.
Yeah, I'm actually thrilled. This is our first time out, the Greater Bay Area Ministerium, which is an interfaith council here that covers Belfast, Searsport, really most of Waldo County. Figured we would try something different. Many of the churches have their own services during this Thanksgiving period, but we really wanted a different approach, and we wanted something that really was going to build community.
Well, I think it's really great when you can encompass the whole, beyond Belfast, I guess, Belfast, Searsport, the whole area to get together and share, have a sense of gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we even wanted to go past those boundaries. So we have invited friends from the Islamic community in the Orono area, our Jewish friends from Adas Yosharon down in Rockland, pagans from the Temple of Feminine Divine.
Wait, where's that?
Well, I could actually direct you to that, but I have a feeling you might know that a key person in that is Louise Charette,
Okay.
who is very involved with that. It's actually based in Bangor, but you might know Louise from her work with Republican Journal for years and doing photography. But yes,
I do.
Okay, I had a feeling you did from that laugh. But we really wanted to go beyond our Belfast borders because we have a great number of people here whose faiths we are unaware of. And we really wanted to make sure that there wasn't a presumption that this was a gathering only for those people who went to some of the local churches. Our doors are open, but our hearts are open, most importantly.
All right, well, it's a wonderful event that you're putting together, and thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you came. Have some food.
Now I'm speaking with Joel Krieger of the First Church, and Joel, you've been very much involved in putting this event together, and I've been seeing you taking pictures of everything. You have high hopes for what this is all about, right?
Yeah, Ned. This is great for a first-time event. We're very excited. I think we've got probably 60 or more folks here from the community. It's real pleased.
So, you know, I like to surprise people with my questions. No, I try not to be too difficult. But, you know, this is all about gratitude, and I'm thinking that you may have, do you have something you feel gratitude for?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's so many things, you know, and of course, in my profession as a pastor, we're thinking about these kind of things all the time. Every time I pray, it usually is the prayer of Thanksgiving. But our community, the people that we live with here in the Belfast, Sears, Port area, our churches, you know, looking at this line of food that is almost all gone already, you know, all the things we're blessed with. Many of us have very good lives. We're very much aware, though, that not everybody is in a place in their life right now that is the way they would like it. I guess we'd say it that. Not everybody is in a place where they're real thankful or can be very grateful for everything. And so our hope is that in coming together in community like that, we'll have a chance to share with those, especially who might be having a rough time of it right now.
Well, I was wondering what the purpose of expressing gratitude is all about. Is part of the fact that you are expressing gratitude perhaps passing a positive vibe on to one another, or what is the benefit of getting together and expressing gratitude?
Sure. Definitely. You know, we talk in this morning in our children's message at our church this morning. I talked to the kids about having gratitude and what that's about, how you feel thankful for something in your heart.
Yes.
And how when we do that, it's not only something that makes us feel good.
Right, I know it makes me feel good to feel grateful.
Right, exactly. But it is catching, exactly what you're saying. And when we feel good and thankful, other people around us can pick that up. And the hope, of course, is that then they in turn will find ways of kind of ingesting that gratitude.
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing is, when I feel gratitude, I'm usually feeling positive. I'm not feeling mean.
Exactly.
And so I'm not as apt to, boil over if I'm feeling grateful.
Sure, exactly.
So I think it's
Exactly.
probably good for us all in society
Yeah.
to feel gratitude. Not just one day a year, but more. But it's good to be reminded of it at least on one time.
In the Christian church, I think it would be very clear to say that for many people, the heart of the gospel begins with a heart of gratitude.
Right.
Yeah.
And even for people like myself who are not Christian, we feel the spirit of gratitude
Certainly.
is a good to live with
Certainly.
one another.
Of course. It's not beholden of any particular religion. It's something I think that religions are are based on all around the world.
All right.
Because it's such a common and good thing that we as human beings experience.
Right, kind of like the golden rule is a
Yes,
good idea and
exactly.
passes through many different
You bet,
denominations.
you bet.
All right, well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this special Thanksgiving or Spirit of Gratitude program that we've done, and I hope you will feel gratitude for what you have in your life at this time of year and throughout the year. Until next time, this is Ned Leitner for Somewhere in Waldo County.